Desire. The human mind is full of it. The desire for money, the desire for happiness, the desire for love, sex, acceptance, and a whole lot of other things I may never understand. And the desire to be remembered. Deep down, we all want to be remembered for something. To make a difference that leaves our mark on the world and solidifies our name and image for generations. I know that's what I want. But perhaps I got more than I bargained for. My name is Felix Freeman. Before this whole mess started, my older twin brother, Gordon, managed to wrangle a job for me at the place where he worked, the Black Mesa Research Facility in New Mexico. I took the opportunity and found myself working a pretty cushy job with a decent pay. Everything seemed aces. Then one day, everything went to hell. You could tell it was going to be a bad day right from the beginning. It was early in the morning when there was a terrible accident in the anomalous materials sector of the facility, which was where Gordon worked. At first, everyone thought a giant piece of machinery had exploded due to constantly being overworked, but it was something much more sinister. Suddenly, alien monsters began materializing all over the facility. They slaughtered anyone they came into contact with grotesque efficiency. I was lucky. Through a combination of just a little skill and a lot of luck, I managed to escape with my life. I spent hours running through the facility, dodging aliens and USMC Marines who had been sent to cover up the incident by removing all evidence, the staff included. Finally, I was approached by a strange man in a suit and tie. He told me how he was impressed by my apparent ability to stay alive through sheer willpower, despite near impossible odds. I had no idea what he was talking about, but he told me he had big plans for the future, and I was included in them. For the shortest time, I found myself in some kind of stasis for what seemed to be mere minutes. When I was released from my prison in Oblivion, I found myself on a train 20 years into the future, heading for a city somewhere in Eastern Europe. With much of my memory mysteriously gone, I struggled to understand my situation. Not 5 minutes after disembarking, I found myself in trouble with civil protection, the overzealous thought police for the ruthless dictatorial union of aliens called the Combine. Luckily, the officer in charge of bringing me in was none other than my good friend, Barney Calhoun. He told me that he'd been spending the past 20 years infiltrating civil protection for the human resistance. Our meeting was cut short, however, and I had to make my own way to a mutual friend's, Dr. Isaac Kleiner's, hidden lab. On the way, I was labeled a miscount by the extremely methodical Overwatch and barely managed to avoid capture during an unexpected raid by the Metro cops. I was saved by a beautiful young woman named Alex Vance. Perhaps I'm using young incorrectly, because she was older than me, for Christ's sake. Turns out she was actually the daughter of top scientist at Black Mesa, Eli Vance, who was also a good friend of Gordon's. Alex took me to Dr. Kleiner's lab, but it quickly became apparent that their plans were meant to include Gordon, not me. Only because of my appearance were they none the wiser that I was not Gordon. I continued my charade lest I be cast off by them and left on my own for survival. I was meant to use Dr. Kleiner's prototype teleporter to get me to Eli's lab over at Black Mesa East quickly, but at the last second the teleporter malfunctioned, and I was forced to make my way there on foot. I fought my way through the canals of City 17 and was given an airboat to make my way through the rivers with civil protection in hot pursuit. Finally, after a journey of several hours, I made it to Black Mesa East, where I was greeted warmly by Eli and his second-in-command, Dr. Judith Mossman, still under the false pretense that I was my brother. As I began piecing together what was really going on, combined with the information Eli was giving me, I found out more and more of my memory was coming back. Our old administrator at Black Mesa, Dr. Wallace Breen, had struck a deal with the Combine 20 years ago during the initial invasion, and has essentially become the puppet dictator of the world. Pfft, he was always a hard-ass. After some tension between Alex and Dr. Mossman, Alex took me back to the scrapyard and introduced me to the zero-point energy field manipulator, or gravity gun, and demonstrated its amazing abilities. She also introduced me to her pet, appropriately named Dog, a robotic protector of massive proportions. That night would be a perfect prelude as to what I will always be: pursued. Too quickly, the Combine assaulted the base. Alex, Dog, and I tried to get back to Eli and Mossman in the lab, but we became separated. With no other option, I was forced to take a detour through the former refugee town of Ravenholm. To my horror, I discovered that the town had at some point been bombarded with shells containing head crabs like the ones I encountered at Black Mesa. It gave the term ghost town a hilariously horrific inaccuracy. I found the town had a sole survivor. With the help of a psychotic, shotgun-toting, but friendly priest, I managed to escape to the town's mines. The next morning, I emerged from the mines to find myself near the coastline by Highway 17. I made my way to the nearby Resistance outpost where I contacted Alex. She told me that Eli and Judith had been captured during the assault on the lab and taken to the high-security prison Nova Prospect. I reluctantly agreed to help her rescue them so that my questionable loyalty wouldn't arouse suspicion, and partly because I wanted to make sure nothing happened to her. I was given an armed scout car to begin my journey along the highway and coastline on the way to Nova Prospect. I made several stops along the way that included lending a helping hand to a couple Resistance outposts that had come under attack. As I helped the last outpost fend off a Combine raid, I had to leave my car with them and make the rest of the way on foot. I was getting close. And then, they stayed behind to fend off the Combine so I could make my escape to the prison to rescue their leader. Their screams still haunt me. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't save them. After making my way down the antlion-infested beach, I came to a hidden outpost populated by both humans and Vortigaunts. The Vortigaunts proved to be an extremely helpful ally. After defeating a fearsome antlion guardian, they instructed me the ways of antlion herding, using theropods extracted from the carcass. With a newfound army at my command, the antlions and I made our way up the beach. The march to Nova Prospect had begun. I fought my way through the prison's defensive perimeter and was met with heavy resistance. The antlions' seemingly infinite numbers provided a distraction while I infiltrated the prison through a back door. I made my way through the prison while the antlions raised hell everywhere else. I met up with Alex, who hitched a ride on an incoming train, and set off to find Eli and Judith. The task proved easier than initially thought. We found Eli rather quickly, but no sign of Judith. Alex and I split up while I made my way deeper into the prison. We met up again, and after viewing an old conversation between Dr. Breen and Mossman, we discovered that she was actually a double agent, working with the Combine. With renewed rage, we finally found and cornered her. She attempted to appeal by trying to convince us that it was all for the good of humanity, and in good faith, she led us to a Combine teleporter that we could use to escape. Unfortunately, it had a very long recharge time, and we foolishly let her and Eli go first. At the last second, she entered unknown coordinates into the teleporter and took Eli with her. Alex and I were left holding the bag as we had to hold off the breaching Combine strike teams while waiting for the teleporter to recharge. As we made our escape, the teleporter was damaged in the process. We'd arrived at Dr. Kleiner's lab instantly, but in actuality, we'd been stuck mid-teleport for over a week. News of our daring little raid traveled fast. Our attack was taken as a sign to begin the uprising. Rebel forces everywhere battled viciously with the Combine forces in the streets of City 17, with neither side able to secure the upper hand. Alex stayed with Dr. Kleiner to get him to a safe place, while I headed out into the streets to help Barney push back the Combine. Afterwards, Alex and I helped several squads of rebels and continued our push through the city. We were taken by surprise after she climbed a building to scout ahead. Combine forces landed on the roof and took her. I had no choice but to run. I helped Barney out of a tight spot and we continued the fight. After taking key points in the city and shutting down a heavy suppression device, we ran into Dog. Dog had it set in his mind that Alex had been taken to the Citadel. The Combine superstructure was the base of all operations. The Hornet's Nest was an understatement. Dog opened up a passage for me, and I continued by myself. I infiltrated the Citadel and was met with much resistance, but I continued my way through, hell-bent on finding Alex, with Breen taunting me the entire way. I decided to allow myself to be captured so that I would be taken to Breen directly. As I suspected, Judith was there. So was Alex and Eli. I realized I had made a terrible mistake when Breen revealed his knowledge of my contract with the man in the suit. He intended to kill Alex and Eli so that the Resistance would accept me as their new leader, whom he could control by buying my contract. Dr. Breen's plan was foiled by Judith's timely defection, but managed to create a diversion that caught us off guard and made a getaway. After a quick reconciliation with Dr. Mossman, Alex and I gave chase to Breen. We nearly caught him, but he managed to evade us once more. We then noticed what the Doctor had planned to escape to. The top of the Citadel was revealed to be a dark fusion reactor that Breen would use to escape to the Combine homeworld, where any attempts on his life would be impossible. I continued to fight my way to the top of the Citadel while fending off more Combine forces. Breen came close to escaping, but I managed to overload the reactor core, sending Breen plummeting to his death. Alex expressed her excitement as we both saw small explosions across the reactor. She began to tell me that we should escape while we still could, but before she could finish her sentence, a massive explosion came close to engulfing us. Time froze. It was him. He was back. He began to congratulate me for my hard work, and proceeded to put me back in the stasis I had started out in, seemingly leaving Alex to perish in the explosion. And then he vanished, through a door of nothing, leading nowhere. Then, with nothing else, I wondered. I wondered if I made a big enough difference to be remembered by.